Channel is Bitcoin Believer. Today we are January 3rd, the birthday of Bitcoin. So if you didn't know, Bitcoin was created January 3rd, I believe in 2009. So this is the birthday of Bitcoin. And as the title says, we're only a few days away from the ETF. It's about 12:05 p.m. I am live. I do have a comment section open. If you'd like to make a comment, say something about what's going on with cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin or anything else as far as the economy is concerned, I'd be happy to post your comment and we can talk about it. As you can see with Bitcoin, we have a little bit of a price dip. Some people were saying that this could possibly be because the ETF isn't going to happen. I would tell you that if there was news that the ETF was not going to happen, it would be dropping a lot more than it has dropped. It's dropped 5.3%. That's not as big a drop. That's a normal drop when it's up over 45,000. It went from 42 all the way up to 45, mid 45s. Now it's back to 42. This is normal trading range for Bitcoin. If there was some sort of a bad news on the ETF, we would be dropping way down into the 30s, maybe even in the 20s. So this is not negative information about the ETF. In fact, I saw this on one of the, and actually, I just want to tell where I'm at. So you, as a point of reference, I'm in Carlsbad, California. I hate it when I'm talking, I'm listening to YouTubers, and I don't know where they're at. They could be anywhere in the world. In Europe, they could be in the United States, it could be South America, they could be anywhere. And I think it gives you perspective on where you're at, because a lot of the way you see things, the information you get is given to you from the position of where you live. And I live in Carlsbad, California, which is, here's a map just to show you where it is. Here's San Diego. Of course, here's Los Angeles. And we're kind of midway between the two. We're in San Diego County, more North County, San Diego. But this is where I'm at right now. And this is where we live. So this is everything I do is from the perspective of living here in Southern California. The news I see, the people I talk to, it all has to revolves around what goes on in Southern California. Like someone said yesterday, they were from Long Island, and I did have a lot of people participate in the chat. Like yesterday, I thought it was a good day for the chat. They were in Long Island. I've never been to Long Island, never been to New York, so this is pretty much my world. This is where I live. This is my perspective. But anyway, I was reading some of this information about the ETF, and it says right now, let me tell you, when there is something as big as this ETF coming, and this ETF has been in the works forever. The first ETF filings were this Winklevoss twins, the ones that claim that here they are, Winklevoss twins. They went to school with the guy who created Facebook. Can't even think of his name right now. Where's he at? I think there's a picture with him. But they went to school with Zuckerberg. So they claim that Zuckerberg stole. In fact, I thought there was an image of them of Zuckerberg. They went to school with Zuckerberg. Right here. This is the picture right here. They went to school with Zuckerberg. They claim Zuckerberg stole their idea. So somehow there was a settlement, and these guys become very wealthy, and they try to get a spot, a Bitcoin ETF, long time ago. We're talking about clear back in 2013. It's a looming decision that has sparked global headlines, turn the heads of financial analysts, and keeps the Bitcoin world on the edge of its proverbial seat. This refers, of course, to the Bitcoin Exchange Traded Fund ETF that we're talking about. It's going to happen hopefully in a few days. Proposed by investor Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss. That ETF for proposal was in mid-2013. So this has been going on for a long, long time. It's not like all of a sudden the Bitcoin ETF got proposed and now it's happening. This has been working. It's been in works for over 10 years. So the fact that they're getting one done now is not new news. This has been going on for a long time. And when I first got involved with Bitcoin, like well over 10 years ago, actually not quite 10 years ago, about 218 or 215 would have been about 7 or 8 years ago. I remember this was still happening. Everybody was talking ETF, and they wanted the ETF to get done. And of course it wasn't happening. Of course, that was always, a bummer every time a filing for the ETF would happen and nothing would come of it. So this is this is pretty, I would say this is almost certain to be happening. And I like CoinDesk. I think they give the best content for Bitcoin. It says, let's address the topic the crypto industry is obsessed with. I believe there's a 98% chance that a spot Bitcoin ETF will be approved by January 10th. We are January 3rd today. So we got 7 days till this ETF is going to happen. So if you're watching Bitcoin right now, or if you're holding Bitcoin right now, man, I would stay locked in for this next 7 days. Recent development supports Security Exchange has been meeting with the issuers of the ETF even during the business holiday season. It's straight up to the final details. Structure and creation and redemption and procedure and guide issues to incorporate the latest changes to their S1 filings. BlackRock just filed its 4th amendment to the application with the SEC on December 3rd and is expecting to seed its Bitcoin ETF with 10 million on January 3rd. So today, they're going to seed it. So they have probably Bitcoin that they own right now. So they're going to use this Bitcoin to go ahead and start making market or seed it into the whatever the procedure is as far as that's concerned. But here's a list of the ETFs that are being proposed right now. And if you look at the custodians for almost every single one of them, it's Coinbase. So that's why I always like Coinbase as my choice as far as an exchange to hold Bitcoin. I think they're really being heavily watched right now by the Security and Exchange Commission. And of course, they're the pivotal point of a lot of these filings, of which there are lots of money involved. So Coinbase, I think, is a very good point. And you might want to look at the Coinbase stock. I haven't looked at Coinbase's stock here recently, but let's just see what the Coinbase stock is doing. I bought Coinbase stock right out of the gate, and it didn't really do much, so I sold it. It's down a little bit today, but this could be a real, they're going to be custodian of a lot of Bitcoin. So this could be a really good play for, like started out real high and now it's gone down. So it's underperformed as far as all this is concerned. This could be the real play right now is buying Coinbase stock. It trades on the NASDAQ. So if you're thinking about this may not be such a bad idea to buy some Coinbase stock right now. So we're only a few days away. This is getting exciting. We're at 42,678. Of course, all-time highs are over 60,000, 69,000. So this could be, and we had a big drop right here. And you don't know what happened here. You don't know why. It dropped from 44 down to 42, which is nothing too amazing because it had gone up that much in the last few days. Right here, it gone up, and then it took a little. So this is the last few days where it's been trading over 44,000, and it came back just a little bit. So I think this is a pretty good time to buy because we've had a little bit of a dip. So if you're thinking about spending a little bit of money on Bitcoin right now, this may be the time to do it. And of course, there's bigger issues going on in the world today than Bitcoin and the ETF. I found out something this morning that really shocked me is my auto insurance rates have gone up from, I think I was paying $500 a month for all the vehicles we have, but now I'm paying $800 a month. So my auto insurance went from $500 to $800, because of the new year. I don't know where everybody else is at as far as their auto insurance is concerned, but these kind of things are hitting everybody. I mean, this inflation is off the hook. I mean, it's killing everybody, and you're not even aware of it. They're getting you every time you turn around. The little things, the food. This stuff is all coming in on us, and we've got bigger issues than Bitcoin. We got bigger issues than the ETF because of inflation and because of the fact I do believe this is all leading to a central bank digital currency. The ordinary everyday person cannot keep up with the cost of inflation right now. And of course, we're in an election year, 2024. We'll have an election here in November for the US presidency. And all this is affecting consumers, and consumers are being squeezed right now by inflation and by the fact that technology is eliminating a lot of jobs and will continue to eliminate a lot of jobs as we move forward. artificial intelligence, autonomous driving, um, a lot of markets, overseas markets. I hear where Japan is losing a lot of their industry, a lot of their manufacturing. It's moving off to places like Vietnam and Mexico, and they're getting better deals because the cost of production is getting higher in China. So China is now losing their economy, and it's moving on to economies that are a little less expensive to manufacture things. So there's big changes going on in the world, and this is all being affected. And one of the the canary in a coal mine is Bitcoin, because we're seeing, because of the inflation, we're seeing Bitcoin go up. And I also was watching the Dow Jones. Dow Jones Industrials are not doing well right now. In fact, I think that let's look what the Dow Jones is doing. Okay, the Dow Jones is off 226 points. So Dow Jones is, and this, if you don't know what the Dow Jones is, it's just an accumulation, a number of stocks that measure something called the Dow Jones Industrials. So we're off 226 points, which isn't a lot. It's 0.6% or 0.60%, a little less than 1%. The market is down today. So, and I guess let's see what else is going on. Commodities. Look what the commodities market is doing. I always like looking at the commodities because it tells me a lot about what's going on in the economy. And of course, I used to watch commodities very closely because I grew up on a farm in Nebraska. So I think oil prices have gone down. Well, let's see what's going on. Yeah, crude oil is up a little bit. Gold is off. Gold is right around $2,000. Of course, it always shocks me to see the corn price, because I see $4.65 a bushel for corn. That's 1980s prices of corn. So if you're a farmer, you haven't had a raise in the last 35 years, because this is crazy. $4.65 corn. I know how they're making up the difference is they have genetics right now with seed corn that's making, when I farmed, you were lucky to get 200 bushel corn. That was an outstanding crop. Now, 200 bushel is probably a mediocre crop, and they're probably getting around 300 bushel. And I don't know what they average in the really good areas of corn. So they have modified the seed. Of course, that's genetically modified the seed. So they don't have to make as many trips over the field. When I farmed, we did everything. We plowed the ground. We turned the ground over. We planted the seed. Then we had to cultivate the seed. We had herbicides, but they weren't very good. Corn is a grass, so you have to be very select in the herbicide that you use. You could only use broadleaf herbicide. So like stuff like grass would come up and they'd invade your corn crop, kill your yield, and you couldn't do anything about it because it was the same plant type as corn. Corn's a grass, and so any grasses growing in the fields, you couldn't do. You had to either cultivate them out or turn the ground over and bury the seed so deep that when you planted, that the weed seed was buried. Well, now they don't do that anymore. They make one pass over the field, they plant it, they spray Roundup, which is GMO, Roundup Ready corn, because they've modified the corn seed so that it doesn't die when you spray a defoliant like Roundup. Roundup kills everything, but it won't kill corn. It's been genetically modified. So now the animal eats the corn that's been genetically modified, and they have this genetically modified tainted meat. And that's why I don't eat grain-fed meat. I only eat grass-fed meat because I don't want to eat the GMO food, which is the genetically modified food. So because they've been able to do that, cut the cost, the number of times you go over the field with the tractor, which costs a lot of diesel fuel. So now they've been able to lower the cost of production, but the price has stayed the same. And that's what's really going on in this world. What's going on in this world is they've kept commodity prices very low because technology has been able to improve. So the fact they've been able to come up with GMO seeds, which is not good for our health, but they've kept the cost of production low. They can keep the price of corn low, which offsets some of the other things that they've raised prices on. And so everything else is going up. The commodities are staying low, but they've been able to keep the commodity price low is because the input costs are going low, not as much as they used to be, because we don't have to do as much work to grow the corn as we used to have to do. That's what's going on in the world today. And technology is deflationary. The more technology we have with artificial intelligence and all the things that we have available to us now, it's deflationary. But at the same time, we have this rampant inflation of the monetary system because they keep printing more money. So we're not really doing much, but we're just printing more money, but they're keeping costs down because of the fact that technology is deflationary. But this is rapidly coming to an end because they've printed so much money now, they've kind of got to the point where it's starting to become fairly obvious. I mean, we have the internet today. We have the ability to communicate and understand. And so when I found out about how the monetary system worked in the early 2000s or late 1990s, we didn't have the internet. We couldn't do all this research. Nobody really understood the Federal Reserve. Nobody understood the money printing system. We had some vague idea, but we didn't really understand it as well as we do now. Now there's thousands and thousands of videos on it. And if you really want to dig into it, I mean, it's all over the place. You can find out everything you want to find out. So anyway, I have a comment I'm going to take a look at here. Mr. Dragon, how are you today? Oh, yes. Here we go. Put you on the screen. Hello, Kent. Nice hodl day for BTC. Wow, nice. Very good. Very good. That's a nice little stack for BTC. That's getting up there pretty high. What, close to 200,000? No, what, 4 times 4, 160,000. That's not bad. Nice job, Mr. Dragon. So, yeah, somebody was telling me the other day 100G in Bitcoin is they call that a, what do they call it, a rack? I think it was a rack. I'm not sure. So if you got a rack in Bitcoin, you got 100K in Bitcoin. So if you're sitting with 100K of Bitcoin right now, I'd say pretty well. I was going to do a video about this. I was thinking to myself, could you make a living on owning one BTC? So if you owned like one BTC right now, it'd be around $45,000. So could you, and let's say it runs up to 80,000 or 100,000, and could you live off of that? I mean, if you really kept yourself, your expenses low, and you know, there are days if you own a Bitcoin, you know, you'd be up $2,000 or $3,000 in a day. And if it continues to increase and you watch your expenses, could you live off of a Bitcoin? I mean, I've thought about that quite often, that if someone would just buy one single Bitcoin and just hang on, and of course you're going to have times where it goes down, you're going to have times when it's go up, but if you were very, very, managed it really well, you know, I mean, you couldn't live where I'm living because it's very expensive where we live. But if you lived a pretty moderate life, could you live off of one Bitcoin? Buy one Bitcoin and just, as it went up, take money off the table so you could buy groceries, buy for a place to live, and then continue to hold enough Bitcoin so that as it appreciates, you can continue to live off that one Bitcoin. And just to give you some reference point on that, I think my son told me the first time he bought a Bitcoin, he paid $300 for it. So if you owned a Bitcoin for $300, and we're at 44,000 right now, I mean, there's a lot of money that you could have used over the years to finance your lifestyle. So Mr. Dragon has another comment here. And that's, I think, the way we're going. Paper money equals rabbit hole. Yes, sir. I mean, there's never, I mean, this information is so ubiquitous. It's so over the top as far as where it's out there. It's all over the place. There's never been a fiat currency yet that hasn't failed. Every single fiat currency fails. And of course, our monetary system was based on gold. And that put some restraints on it, because if you measured the dollar to gold, now you had some baseline as far as what the value of the money was, and compared to, you know, what it used to be. So at one time, gold was $28 an ounce. Well, that means for every $1, you got an ounce of gold. For every $28, you got an ounce of gold. Well, now it's $2,000 an ounce. So for every dollar, you got to come up with $2,000. I mean, for every ounce of gold, now you got to come up with $2,000. So that shows you how much money's been printed. And I think that's a manipulated figure in its own right. So, you know, when we decoupled from gold, as far as saying that we have enough gold in our reserves that we could print enough money that if you come to the $1, if you gave $28 and you got an ounce of gold, at the bank, you felt more comfortable about your money than what you do now, because you see how it hasn't had it, and it loses its buying power. And that's what's going on. That's why I'm telling you, my insurance is $800 a month when it used to be $500 a month. They've raised it $300 in 1 month from December to January. I just got my premium notice. It's $300 more expensive. That's a lot. I mean, when it was, the original was $500 a month. Now it's $800 a month. They raised that on me in 1 month. And that's ridiculous. So, I got to come up with another $300 a month just to pay for my auto insurance. And that's every month. And that's not even only happening with my auto insurance. It's probably happening with everything. So this is the world we're living in, and you can't keep up. And you're not going to keep up with today's wages, because I'm sure that people around, I mean, I'm retired basically. I'm 63 years old. I'm not really actively working at a job. But if I was working at a job, I don't think my increase in pay would be offset the $300 I just got raised in my auto insurance. And that's what's happening to everybody. Everybody's getting further and further behind. If you're on a fixed income, or if you're on a pension, or if you're on a, some sort of, your money doesn't increase as fast as the prices that are increasing, you're going to be behind very quickly. And that's where I think the central bank digital currency is going to come into play. So when people get so far behind that they can't make their expenses anymore, you're not going to let the economy collapse, and people can't pay auto insurance, and the auto insurance businesses, Warren Buffett doesn't make his money because he owns Geico, and the people that own auto insurance stocks or insurance stocks are not going to lose money. They're not going to let that happen. So they're going to have to inject money into the economy. And this idea of lowering interest rates and raising interest rates and stimulating the economy, that's not keeping up with today's world, the digital world, and how fast things are going. So we'll have to have a central bank digital currency. People don't want that. I really don't want that, because now everything is on the blockchain. In fact, we're coming up on tax season pretty quick here. A lot of people don't want to sit down and go through their finances to determine what their tax liability is. So in the future, and nobody likes that. Taxes have always been a role. That's like going to the dentist. Nobody wants to do taxes. Nobody wants to figure out a tax return. So in the future, with the central bank digital currency, and they have a record of everything you spend, and your income and your expenses, they just may send you a bill for your taxes, and you don't have to do anything, or you just press a button and it automatically calculates your taxes, and you settle up with the IRS. But yeah, that's where we're going. We're going to some sort of a digital system where everything is just going to be automatically figured out. So you don't have to go through. There's not going to be Donald Trump who claims to be a billionaire, multiple billionaire, and doesn't pay any taxes, or a guy like Jeff Bezos, who owns one of the most successful companies in the world, who doesn't pay any taxes. And the reason they don't pay any taxes is because they can write off a lot of their expenses against their income. So in the future, there's not going to be any question as far as that's concerned. That's all going to be digitally understood and figured out, and it's going to be done ahead of time. So, it's not going to be like, I don't feel like paying my taxes because Jeff Bezos doesn't pay his taxes, or I don't feel like paying my taxes because Donald Trump walks around, brags about all the money he makes and how wealthy and valuable, and he flies around in his own private airplane. But in the end of the day, he's not paying any taxes. Why is, the guy that works, or the person that works at Walmart that has a W-2 income, getting withheld and getting taxed every day, and while these billionaires are running around not paying any tax? I mean, people are getting really kind of tired of that. So if they get kind of tired of that, the government may just have a solution. Now everybody's treated alike. We just do it on a digital system, and you get what you get. It's all already predetermined, figured out, and you just press a button and there it is. That's where we're going. And I think because of the fact people do hear all this information, I mean, it's obvious. You go online. I mean, look at the Congress tried to get Donald Trump's tax returns for years, and he wouldn't give them up. He claimed he didn't have there was no law that required him to have to give up his taxes. Generally, presidents give up their tax returns very easily because they just want to be transparent. Donald Trump didn't want to do it because he knew that it wasn't corresponding with what he was telling people as far as his income is concerned, what he made. So he just wouldn't do it. So over the years, got to be contentious. And finally, when they did get his tax returns, it ended up being very little. So yeah, the digital currency will fix a lot of that. I got another comment here. So um, yeah, we're gonna have 100 year, Mr. Dragon again. We're gonna have 100 year reset of money. I believe so. There will be a reset on this money. It's going to go to something different than what we have today. The fiat currencies just aren't keeping up with the digital age and with technology. And it's as if, and it's not like, um, this was a conspiracy or anybody planned it out this way. This is just the way technology is working out. That I mean, obviously people game the system because they have control, because they have more money than other people and they can do what they want to do. But at the end of the day, this is just where technology is leading us. This is where, I mean, I grew up pre-internet, and the internet has changed the world. And it wasn't like anybody said, hey, we're going to come up with this idea of the internet and we're going to change the world. I mean, this is just where by people coming up with the better way of doing something, it materialized into the internet, just like Bitcoin materialized because someone was frustrated with the financial system. Satoshi Nakamoto, he was frustrated with the banking system, of which he put in the very first block about the bank bailouts. He didn't like it. He was frustrated with it. He was trying to come. He was a person, obviously, that had technology interest and technology background on it and had the tool to be able to figure out an idea like Bitcoin. He just materialized it, or she, we don't even know who Satoshi is. Probably never will know. But that person was able to materialize Bitcoin. And now our lives are being adjusted to that new reality of Bitcoin and digital currencies, which is flowing through to the central bank digital currency. And like I said yesterday, it will be placed in your digital wallet. You will have digital wallet, digital currency, central bank digital currency given to you very soon. If you decide to use it, I believe that's up to you. If you don't want to use it, then you don't have to use it. But you're going to be at a disadvantage. And I'll give you a quick story. When I was a farmer, I grew up on a farm in western Nebraska. And in the early 80s, farming was very, very difficult. A lot of farmers went out of business. A lot of farmers lost generational wealth. Their families had owned farms, and because of the high interest rates and because of the low commodity prices, people lost their land, and they were in, and of course it's in our best interest of our country to keep our farmers financially prosperous, because if we don't have a farming, we don't have farms in our world. We're not. Our food sources are going away. Our growth, everything. If you don't have dairy farmers, you don't have milk. If you don't have cattle farmers, you don't have meat. So you got to keep these guys in business. So in the early 80s, as the commodity prices were going down, inflation was going up, the cost of operating a business was going up, a lot of farmers were going out of business. So what did the government do? They stepped in with programs to support the farmers. It was called the PIC program. So you got a subsidy. So the government said, hey, we'll take some of the land out of production. You set aside some land. You don't farm it. So that will decrease the amount of commodities being produced, which will raise the prices. And then we'll pay you for that, which gives you a stimulus check, an income beyond your farm income. So we got subsidy money. That was really what got me into farming. I went into, the person that I farmed for, and she had these subsidy checks laying on her kitchen table, and she said, "You want to take over the farms this year? Go ahead. I'll give you this money." And it was, that time pretty good sum of money, just to become the farmer. So now that's happening. That's going to happen again. It's going to happen with everybody. It's happening still in farming with subsidies. There, almost every business today is getting some sort of subsidy from the government, if you know it or not. So I think in the future, everybody will be subsidized with a central bank digital currency and a digital wallet where they're going to get some money from the government. If you choose to use it, fine. If you don't, you don't have to. When we were back in the farming in the early 80s, you didn't have to sign up for the program. You didn't have to go down to the ASCS office and put your name, in the program. You didn't have to do that. You could farm outside the program. My parents did, and it cost them a ton of money. And they ended up eventually signing up for the programs because they were unable to compete with the farmers that did get the program money. So you had a farmer that did get the program money. He was staying ahead of the game, where people like my folks who weren't getting the program money and just living from being subjected to the real world market of what the commodity prices were without any help from the government, they were losing money, so they couldn't afford to operate, and they couldn't afford to keep up. So they eventually had to capitulate and sign up for the farm programs, and that's what happened. My dad was kind of what would you say? He's long since passed away. So my parents have long since passed away. But back in the day, my dad didn't really want government interference in his life. He didn't feel like government. He wanted to, get a handout from the government or get government help, because if he thought if he did, that was, going to open him, my parents' business up to, government intervention that they didn't want to have happen. But you know what? They over a period of time, they have a bad year, they have a hailstorm, they have an early frost, something happens, and guess what? They're not covering the bank loans. So you're not gonna, if you don't pay off the bank comes and auctions off all your, all your equipment, and now you're out of business. So you either take the program money, stay in business, or you just eventually get eliminated and get erased from the world, or the agricultural world, or the world of farming. And if you don't want to do that, you just have to take the money. So that's what's going to happen. People are just going to have to take the money if they want to stay viable in this world. And the central bank digital currency will be there for you. And I don't know how quickly it'll happen, but I think Bitcoin's kind of a warm you up to that kind of idea. When Bitcoin is going where it's going, it gets an ETF, gets approval by the Security Exchange Commission. People start to see people making money with this digital currency stuff. And all of a sudden, some of it gets injected into your bank account in the form of a central bank digital currency. You will be very amenable to that. You'll be very like, well, this is a bad idea after all. I think I might just take some of that central bank digital currency, because I got to pay my insurance bill. I got to pay my auto insurance bill. So I think that's the direction we're going. So if there's no more comments, I think I'm going to sign off here. I'm at 32 minutes and 5 seconds. I don't want to keep these too long, because if I make them too long, then they just, I guess, I don't think it's entertaining for people. I want to have at least have some, keep it so it doesn't drag on too long, because if it drags on too long with things that people aren't interested in hearing, they won't listen. And I'd like to have people listen and communicate. So I have had 3 comments by Golden Dragon 13, Gold 13 Dragon. I appreciate it very much. And with 4BTC, hopefully here by the next 7 days, you're going to have a good time, because I think this price is probably going to go much higher. And I'm, a lot of people are saying this right now. Maybe sell the, sell the anticipation, and everybody's anticipating this happen. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of hype behind it. Sell before the ETF gets announced, because when the ETF gets announced, it may go down, because all of a sudden the price is built into the ETF, the ETF being happening. So sell prior to the ETF announcement, because the price may go down with the ETF. That's one theory, but that's not my theory. My theory is, I think when the ETF happens, it's going to go up even higher and a lot quicker, because now everybody is starting to say this did happen, and it's going to materialize. And now all of a sudden, hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, are going to be injected into this Bitcoin market. So I would definitely say next 7 days are going to be very interesting. And of course, we don't have to wait very long to find this out. This is going to happen very soon. I want to check real quick before I get off what's going on in the Bitcoin YouTube world. So I just like to do this every now and then. So we got this guy. He's on all the time. I don't know who this guy is. It's Cryptos RUs. I have never listened to his video. He's always streaming. He's always live. It's Bitcoin holders don't fall for this trap. So that's clickbait. Bitcoin, what now? Okay, that's kind of clickbaitish too. A sailor's personal buying 200 million of Bitcoin now. BlackRock's buying BTC. Final ETF meeting. So he's giving you information about ETF. Bitcoin warning. This is a giant trap. Another clickbait. Bitcoin ETF rejected FUD crash. That's what I'm saying. These people are getting a lot of views. This content is, getting Look at this: 2 hours, 12,000 views; 1 hour, 9,000 views; 4 hours, 86,000 views. And I don't even know what he's talking about. Today's sudden drop to Bitcoin before settling it higher. Why did this happen? Make sure. Okay, I don't know what. I'd like to play a little bit of it. 23,000 K is 5 hours. I mean, most of this stuff is just, it's just and these guys and people, women that become big Bitcoiners and big Bitcoin content. They have to create a lot of content to keep these audiences, and they have to create content that is clickbait-ish, or people aren't going to watch it. What's happening now? Why down? So, I mean, it's a common occurrence. It's nothing to go really get excited about. What's happening? Oh my God, we better watch this video because the video is going to tell us what's just going on with crypto because it went down $2,000 after it just went up a few days ago $2,000. So it's just evened out. It was up 2,000, it's down 2,000. This has just happened in the last few days. Nothing extraordinary. This is everyday ordinary trading stuff. And of course, we've got people putting clickbait in front of you about, and here we go. Bitcoin price is about to crash, explained in another 10 minutes. So, and we got 7 days till we get an ETF, and then we're talking about a Bitcoin crash. I mean, this is funny stuff. People will just go to they'll just go to anything possible to get you to watch their videos, so they can continue to make content. And of course, I cannot stand this guy right here, the guy that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad. The book Rich Dad Poor Dad was a good book. I read the book, but he's just turned into a total caricature of himself. And of course, this is a guy from Shark Tank. I can't stand him. Most of these people are not. This redacted guy, I've watched him before. I'm not too fond of him either. Although occasionally comes up some decent information. I mean, all these people I've watched from time to time. And of course, Michael Saylor, $1 million. Michael Saylor has every reason in the world to tell you Bitcoin's going to $1 million. His company owns a ton of Bitcoin, and he owns a ton of Bitcoin. He staked his entire financial future. He's a billionaire already. I don't know why he wants to keep on making money. If I were him, I would just go right off into the sunset and have a good time. But that's not the way these guys are wired. They really like, when they can, and that guy's probably had days where he's made $1 billion on Bitcoin. With the amount of Bitcoin he goes up, Bitcoin goes up a few $1,000s, he's made $1 billion. So this guy is really going overboard with Bitcoin right now. And he's a smart guy. I've listened to Michael Saylor, but he has turned from running a company called MicroStrategies to now become a YouTuber. He's basically a YouTuber. And I don't know how much he's on other platforms. I'm not on any other platform. I'm not on X. I hate the name X. Like I said before, I was going through my history one day and I saw these X all over the platform. I said, what is this? I haven't been on any porn sites. How come I got all this X stuff? And I realized it's Twitter, because Elon Musk is such a poor marketer that he thinks that X is a better name than Twitter. I mean, that people, and the guy, I'm not on X. I don't go on X. I've never been on X. I do. Every time I post a video, I put it on X, but I don't interact with X. I don't like it. I don't like the name X. I just don't like X. I like YouTube. And I don't always like YouTube because YouTube gets to be too clickbaitish. And some days I just sit here every day and try to find something good to watch on YouTube, and I can't because everybody's just trying to put YouTube content out. Very few people I really, really like on YouTube. And I don't want to watch ads. I don't want to watch, your, 5-minute ad built into your video because I've been watching your video. I don't want to sit there and watch a 5-minute commercial in the middle of your video. You can get this YouTube Premium, which I get, which you eliminate the ads, but that doesn't mean people still don't put ads in the middle of their videos because they do it all the time, and I hate it. And every time I see one, I just have to click out of it. And then I don't like people like this guy, this Kevin O'Leary. The guy's a billionaire. And, why he still gets on the YouTube every day and has to blabber his mouth, who cares? He doesn't know anything. He's not a technologist. I think the guy I'm not sure about this, but I think he made money with Hooked on Phonics. One of those like children programs, like, teach your kid how to read. I think that's one of how he made his money is like that. So, he's into children's stories, not into Bitcoin or understands Bitcoin. And this guy, he's just a weird dude. And he is just so phony. Everything about the guy, he's just phony. He's old. I think he fought in the Vietnam War. and he just can't stay out of the media. And he doesn't. He's just so. He's just, like I say, he wrote a good book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. But after that, he's just turned into some sort of a, you know, he's just so he just whatever the trend is or whatever it is, he's just creating kind of really content that doesn't really have any value, in my opinion. But people might like him, so that's why they're watching. So there's a, you run through these videos, but anyway, enough of what this video is about. We'll just move on, see if I got any more comments. And yes, Golden Dragon is giving me another one. So hodl, hodl, hodl. Yes, Golden Dragon hodl. So yeah, 7 days left. We'll see what happens. I'm excited. I appreciate you watching.